This was my second time visiting the Suzzallo Library, or as a lot of people call it, the Harry Potter Library. The cloudy weather on my first visit and on this visit gave it a authentically Hogwarts type of feel. The first time I visited was 8 or so years before on a college tour, so I didn't get to spend much time, and I've always wanted to go back and sketch the library. It's just incredibly beautiful. It was also very relaxing and peaceful. It's like a quiet zone. So even though there are modern day Muggle students everywhere, you can forget that we're in 2024 and really kind of imagine for a few minutes, unless somebody's cell phone goes off or something, you can imagine that you're in quite a magical place. The paints that I'm using are Sennelier Watercolors, and I chat about them in the last video that I did. I also talk about the palette that I'm using. I really enjoyed using it. It worked out really well. This was my first time using Sennelier Watercolors and this specific palette out in the wild. I work in layers with watercolor, and so even though I don't really like pastel, my first layer usually does turn out pretty anemic looking. One of the world's largest books is stored in this library. Here's my sketchbook for size reference, even though it is much more impressive in person. Whenever I do watercolor painting outside of the studio, I always have to walk around carrying the book in my hand for a while, waiting for it to dry. Otherwise, if you close it, it'll smear the paint. I didn't have a tremendous amount of time this particular day to stay and paint for a really long time. So I had plans to come back for a second visit, but I wasn't able to make it back for about another month. I packed up colored pencils because I thought maybe I'd make it that far in the painting. I do watercolor first, then colored pencils later. I didn't really end up using them on this particular visit. It was, again, a pretty short visit, and my paint wasn't anywhere near dry in time to do the colored pencils. This visit was on a much brighter, sunnier day, and although it was less authentic, I love the footage that I got so much.
Thank you. It's been over a month because of Inktober. Well, not Inktober for me, Undying Tales. So I have started a painting at the Harry Potter Library and haven't finished it. But I'm going to go finish it today before another appointment I have. I'm so glad I came today. Not only is it gorgeous, like the campus looks so beautiful, but also it's the day before Halloween and some people are just out. Smells like coffee. What? I didn't notice this place last night. If I ever can drink coffee again, I'll make this a 2-hip stop. Try to sit in the same spot, but if I can't, I'll just start a new painting.
The seat that I had sat in before was open. I was able to sit there. I hope I wasn't bothering the person across from me. But I kind of wish that I had just picked a new spot and restarted the painting because, number one, I don't really like the colors I used. That's like a really common theme in all my paintings. But the other issue was that I didn't really like the composition. I didn't like the angle. I felt it turned out awkward. I'm trying to dry my painting here so that I can walk around with it closed instead of having to walk around with it open. I include these chairs in the painting because they were there. I can see them, so I added them, but I don't think they really add anything to the painting, but I really struggle with simplification. That's just how my brain works. This is the angle that I would have liked to get, except that I would have to be sitting in the middle of the room because there are no tables directly in the middle. Maybe I'll try that next time. I'm hypermobile. I can totally sit on the floor if they let me. Maybe it's on theme, maybe it's not, but I included footage of the surrounding buildings. It's a beautiful campus, beautiful foliage and gardens. These trees are actually cherry blossom trees, and I'll be back in the spring to sketch them like I did last year, and I think the year before.
It has been so cold. Look what I'm wearing. I actually went back in the house and changed because I have my big fluffy jacket that I thought I needed. Oh, I'm really overdressed. I'm hot now.
It's a few days after Christmas. I've been messing around with these Winsor & Newton paints, and they're exactly how they were when I started using them on the live. The week before Christmas, it's like, man, they're like very sticky. So I'm gonna play around with them a little bit as a warm-up for whatever I'm doing today, which is I'm gonna try to do some colored pencil on the Harry Potter Library painting that I started a really long time ago. Harry Potter Library is actually closed this week, I know, because I tried to take my sister and it was closed and we couldn't get inside.
Huh, I hadn't thought it was Gothic, but you're totally right. Is Harry Potter Gothic?
The architecture, yes. But we did take pictures of the outside. It was so bad. She doesn't live in Seattle, so she'll have to come back and see it during winter break. I have plenty of photos of it from the last time I was there a couple of months ago. So we're gonna finish this. I'm going to use my Caran Luminance pencils because they work best on our paper, which is what's in this sketchbook. They're soft enough that they don't like dent the paper. And we're gonna do all of this while I listen to stories about NDEs on YouTube because that's my current special interest. Oftentimes breaking out the colored pencils is my favorite part of a painting because I really like getting in all of the little details. I think that if I had been able to spend a little bit more time on location, I might have added a few more layers of watercolor before jumping into the colored pencils. But I learned a lot from this painting, or at this point, it's a sketch. Is it a painting if you're using colored pencils? Drawing in the chandeliers helped me understand a lot about light and how, I mean, you're always learning about light anytime you're drawing, but this was particularly like, because they were kind of octagonal and they had different planes. Each plane reflected light a little bit differently. And I ended up painting 6 of them. And so they each had pretty much the same reflection patterns, but at different scales. And so it was like I was practicing simplification for the smaller ones in the back, and then I was also getting to add more details to the front. So I was able to get a lot more information in my brain than I would if I was sketching, I don't know, a car, which is just one object and is different on all the sides of it.
So close to my heart, all these decades might not even be close to the truth. And now what? No. I had one guy tell me.
I truly regret adding the chairs and the light that's just over the chairs, not the chandeliers, but the yellow bar across the bottom. I just think it adds nothing to the painting. However, I did get to practice reflections on it, which was good for my knowledge base, but it didn't really do anything for the painting. Painting on location, you get so much of a different experience than painting from a photo, but I do think that before I go back, and I do have plans to go back, just because it was such a peaceful, nice experience, and food's not allowed in there, so my sadness about not being able to drink coffee or food allergies will not be a factor. So I do plan to go back and sketch it again, and I'd like to familiarize myself a little bit more with the architecture before I do. I also think that I want to look at some other urban sketchers' work. I was really into urban sketching a couple years back, and I haven't done it much lately, so I want to look at some of my favorite people's work and then look at some of their styles and like how they do things. See if I could bring in some of their tricks into my way of doing things before I head back. This experience was a really fun one. The sketch came out okay. It's not my favorite sketch, but it's definitely not my worst. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.